Hi, and welcome to another insightful session of the CRIISP Growth Labs series, where we bring you conversations with industry experts and successful entrepreneurs. I'm your host, and today we have the pleasure of having with us Rob Cazzolli, the co-founder of Portaboom and director of Traffic and Access Solutions, a groundbreaking solution in traffic control and construction industry. So join us as we delve into the journey of driving disruptive change, overcoming resistance, and achieving remarkable growth in the traffic control industry. Welcome, Rob. It's great to have you here today.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Amazing. Now let's begin with the story behind Portaboom. So how did the idea come about, and how did you actually envision it as a solution for traffic control and construction industry?
It's a like many ideas and inventions, it actually came not from an accident, but more so an incident. So we were also in the traffic control industry, and we were doing a lot of motorway work. So motorway work is high risk. It's during the night. It's high speed cars. You have to shut it down for 6 or 7 hours to get on the road. Contractors do their job and then you get off, okay? So quite simple. It's been happening like that for 30 or 40 years, no problem. However, one evening, one of our traffic controllers was nearly struck by a vehicle, and there was absolutely no reason for that to happen. It was access control, which means we had barrier boards on the road, which was again a standard practice, and the simple act of the traffic controller walking on the road amongst live traffic to remove the barrier boards to allow a contractor through onto site. And unfortunately, this contractor, he was impatient, running late, decided to move a bit sooner than he should have, and our traffic controller had to jump out of the way. It was caught on CCTV, so it was a major investigation that entailed after that, which again is standard. We were very concerned because one of our people nearly was struck, and usually when you get hit by a vehicle, you don't survive. And so following that investigation, it required a solution. And all the usual solutions came up, and one of them was, let's have traffic lights, but they don't work because when motorists breach traffic lights, orange lights, red lights. So we thought, well, why don't we just put a portable barrier gate there? So it was so simple. Everyone went silent for a few seconds because it was like a light bulb moment, but so silly as well. Like, why didn't we think about this before? Great, let's give it a go on the next closure, which was 4 weeks away. So we thought how easy, we'll Google a solution, and nothing existed. Incredibly, nothing existed. So us being us, we said, well, let's design one. So we built one. And basically that is the actual start of the product journey, and that was many years ago. And so we designed the product. We had a couple of builders that we knew, some fabricators, if you like. Yeah. And it was clunky, it was ugly, it was clunky, it was in many pieces, it was heavy, very hard to move, but that wasn't the idea. The idea was, let's just see if it works. And we just got it ready in time, wrote a procedure around it, wrote a bit of a safety procedure around it, and we put it to work. And of course, it worked really, really well. The client loved it, we loved it, and the operator loved it as well, the traffic controller. And they said, okay, from now on, moving forward, this needs to be the solution for every closure on this specific motorway. Because there's all different owners and different managers of roads, right? So I thought, okay, great. So that was the start. Right. And then after that, the journey continued because we got a safety team together, if you like. So it had traffic controllers, had team leaders, and some of my managers. And we asked again a simple question, and it was, if this is for access control, which is simple, as we know, you see access control all the time. You see it in car parks, you see it at events, you see it in construction sites. Yeah. Okay. Why can't we do it for what we call stop slow? So that is, you see it on the road, you see traffic controllers on the road, in the middle of the road with a stop slow button. Yeah, correct. Which is a much, much more dangerous act of traffic control because they are standing. It is incredible when we sat there and started to think about it. In this day and age, well, this was a few years ago, in this day and age, how we have got all this smart technology. We've got autonomous vehicles coming up. We've got AI now, as we know. We're so connected with our products. We've got, with all this cranes that operate off remote control, and yet in this industry we're saying, oh, you should put a human life there and good luck, just don't get hit. It was crazy. So he said, we need to have this solution for all traffic control.
Right.
And that's when we set a charter, if you like, and said, from now on, let's do it. Let's design a product that we can use and then take to market. And our objective was no traffic controller or construction worker should ever be on the road at any time in live traffic. And that's how it started.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Rob, it's truly inspiring to hear how you took that incident that had happened to build Portaboom, and we are so grateful that you took that initiative. Now, being a disruptor in a very change-resistant market is obviously not easy. So, could you share with us some of the obstacles that you faced during the development and introduction of your business, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah. This is a conversation that could either take 2 hours or 10 minutes because there's so many, and that was it. It's so funny because again it's one of those things where there's so much pain, but when you get through the other side, you forget the pain.
Right. True.
But if we ever knew it was going to be that difficult, I can understand why some companies and some people don't actually go through with their ideas or bring it to market, because I've experienced that it can be very, very difficult, especially in a country like Australia.
Yeah.
Now, that's not such a critical point. It's not such a bad point, because a good part of that is the right questions are being asked, the right risks are being mitigated, and when you do get it through, at least now you're in market, and hopefully it'll take off. Okay, if that makes sense, because you've got the approvals, you've got all the risk ratings. And you've got the right authorities behind it to say we have an endorsed product now. But it can be very painful. So I'll just quickly run through, in summary, a few of them. The first one is design.
Yeah.
In this industry, and all industries are different, but I would imagine principally they are the same.
Yeah.
Design was very, very, very important, because we understood, and my first rule was, we cannot make the experience bad for anyone. Because when you're bringing a product to disrupt a behaviour, which we'll get to in a second, it will very easily, I believe, fall off. It will not take off if someone has a bad experience.
True.
It will not happen.
Yeah.
You have to have that first experience near perfect. So we had to get the design right. It had to be heavy enough and robust enough, because it's going to be manoeuvred every day on and off trucks and construction sites, but it's got to be manoeuvrable enough so it doesn't affect manual handling. You see people on construction sites, traffic controllers, you have 6'3" people, you have 5'0", you have people that weigh 50 kilos, people that weigh 150 kilos, so they can't be lifting heavy things, right? Manual handling is a big thing. It's got to be manoeuvred on site, so once you're off the truck, it's got to be able to move it quite easily. It's got to have minimal parts, and it's got to have an easy and quick setup time, because again, every time is money. So if you're out on site and it takes you 20 minutes to set up, and then you say, oh, here's a Portaboom, now it takes you 40 minutes to set up, they're going to say, no, that's not going to work. So design was really, really important. So we spent a lot of time and a lot of testing on that, and we had a philosophy which was only 2 parts. So we only have 2 parts, which is the main unit and the arm, and no tools. And that was the big one. And again, engineers, so no tools. Well, how about you need something? I said, no tools, because people lose tools, then you can't put it on, and then it doesn't work. I said, no tools allowed. So everything then became hand tighten, clips, or quick release, which is just a on, turn, click, pull out, and you're done. Right. So that was the philosophy. Had to be visual, and the wheels had to be robust wheels, because at first we had these small caster wheels, if you like. We're getting technical, but the wheels had to be, so it has to go on uneven surfaces. Right. So we spent a lot of time on that and a lot of testing on that with our own traffic controllers until we believed we got it right. So that was number 1. So that takes time and money. 2 is compliance, which was a big one. We are a very, very regulated industry, but we actually had a win on this immediately. In the road authority manuals and also in the Australian standards, there's a clause in there that says you can do stop slow with a stop sign on on a boom barrier, if you like, if it's available. I could not believe it when I read it, so we had to research that. Couldn't believe it.
Right.
So that's just a legacy thing from 40 years ago when they had the old handheld barrier gates. So we used that regulation to say, all right, we comply.
Yeah.
So that was a big one, and then approvals. And approvals, again, in this country took a long time. So first we had an approval from the RMS at the time. Now it's Transport for New South Wales. They were RMS. And once we were ready, we asked them for their approval to test the product out on the road, because you're not allowed to put that product out on the road until it's an approved product. So it took them literally, after a 1 hour presentation, it took them 12 hours to approve it. They saw the immediate benefits.
Amazing.
Yes, and they said, only you can test it. We'll give you 6 months. And so we did. And what we had to have observations, reports, speed testing, feedback from the traffic controllers, feedback from the clients, feedback from the motorists. And we had all this, and we gave it all to them. And we had observations how it reduced speeds on work sites, which is very, very important. The how our traffic controllers felt safe, how they were away from the road, and once we did that, then we knew that we had to go to the Australian Roads Research Board, which is even a higher approval process, and then they approved it after 6 months under the they call it TIPES, which is a Transport Infrastructure Product Evaluation Scheme, and we're the only portable traffic control device at that time to be approved. Okay.
Wow.
Believe it or not, once we did that, we thought, all right, great, let's go.
Yeah.
Then we had to get approved in every single state.
Right.
So once we did that, basically had to go on a roadshow and to get approval from each state. So they were big challenges and barriers.
Absolutely.
Once we finally got through all that, which was great, and to overcome that, we had to change our messaging and our presentation to each state, because every state is a bit unique.
True.
To give you an example, I did it in Queensland, which they were great. Had 2 people. We sat down. They saw the benefits, and they gave the approval straight away. Right. When I say straight away, it was quite immediate, right? After a couple of weeks, few weeks. And Western Australia, I had to fly over there, and I had a whole room of about 12 people that we had to present to, because they were like, we need to understand this product. And I thought, wow, how different their process is
in the same country.
In the same country, yeah. But it was great, because it was a great learning experience, and that actually helped us, because once we did go to market, we knew what we had to change for that sort of state, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So anyway, that was a big challenge, and we got through that. And then third, getting to market, we knew that the messaging had to be right, because again, in an industry like traffic control and construction, change is very slow. They're very resistant.
True.
And so we had to have a whole strategy and campaign about how we're going to penetrate the market now.
Right. And
again, the rule we put forward was, we're not selling, it's education, education, education. And it's all features and benefits. And starting from the basics. And so we just had to keep pressing that point over and over and over and over and over again. So education was the biggest for us. And we're telling my people, I do not want to hear anyone selling it. You need to have this. No, that's not the language. The language is, what problem does this solve? Yeah. And what's it going to do for your people and your company?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was another big challenge. And then obviously you always have to turn it into a commercial reality, because again, in our industry, it is risk and liability is a massive challenge, because clients, authorities especially, will say, well, it's a new product, it's on the road, it's a risk to the public, it's our risk as a government, it's our risk as a project, why should we do this? So you have to, again, education. And 2, such a price-sensitive industry, how much is it going to cost?
Right, true.
So we had to then turn that into, okay, it's not about how much it's going to cost, it's how much it's actually going to save you. And we actually worked out a whole return on investment mechanism, which as soon as they saw that it could pay itself off in 6 months, it became a no-brainer. So that was like our piece de resistance, right? It was like just cherry on the cake. So.
Yes. Well, Rob, this is truly very inspiring to hear that, even though you had so many challenges in front of you, and it's
Yeah.
not easy starting a business, like you said, but you overcame everything, and now we are sitting here today. So this is brilliant. Now, for my next question, addressing concerns over liabilities and risk is
Yes.
essential when you're introducing change. So, how did you navigate these challenges and actually educate the stakeholders about the new risk landscape that was introduced by Portaboom?
Yep. So this was a major point, especially with the road authorities, number one, and two, with what we call the main tier one infrastructure owners or project owners. For example, you see the Sydney Metro or the West Connect, they're major infrastructure projects. They cannot have any sort of liability on site that's not within their standing operating procedure, that's not been mitigated. So when you bring something that says basically, what we are saying, this is very important, what we're basically saying now is we are changing the whole behaviour on how traffic, temporary, I should make it clear, it's temporary traffic control, which means you on the road, then you're off the road, because then the traffic has to flow freely. True. It's not shutting a road, right? Yeah. So we are now saying people are not going to be on the road, they're going to be standing 20 metres away, and this Portaboom will do the job. So you have to change standing operating procedure. You don't have to change any laws around it, which was the beauty about the product. However, the first question is, okay, this sounds good, but what other risk now is it introducing? Because once you introduce a product, you might be eliminating a risk, which is in effect what we were doing, but you could also introduce another risk. And their concern was, we have this a 70 kilo object on the side of the road that wasn't there before. What if a car hits it? It could become a projectile. Right. That was really the one and only biggest concern. Yeah. Okay. And I went, okay, we were quite confident, didn't, but we had to do a crash test, and we did. And what happened was exactly what we thought. It's so heavy, it just fell over, and the car will just run over it, and nothing really happens, right? There's damage to the vehicle and damage to the boom. So they were comfortable with that. But then it was actually a quite easy way to justify the product being on the road, because then I followed it up with a simple question. What would you rather? A Portaboom hitting the ground and hitting the curb and the damage to the vehicle, or a traffic controller being hit? And then it was like, okay, meeting over, tick, let's move on, right? Yeah.
You asked the right question.
Well, because it's actually, that's the whole purpose of the product. And it has happened where vehicles have hit the arm because they're texting. Motorists are in a rush, they're texting, they're not aware. Right. Sometimes there's sun in the eyes as well, right? It happens. And they've hit the boom arm. So they haven't hit the actual main unit. They've hit the boom arm at a slow speed. So the boom arm just breaks on itself and what have you. So it's an incident. Wow. But everyone's happy because, except for the motorist, obviously, because of damage to the vehicle. Exactly. But everyone's safe. No one's injured. Yeah. They just replace the boom arm. Motorists, they get their details, but jobs go ahead and everyone goes home. Yeah. So it's done its job. Right. Yeah.
Perfect. Now, reaching significant milestones such as gaining approval from the Australian Roads Research Board and achieving nationwide adoption is truly very impressive, Rob. So can you tell us, how did you actually maintain that momentum, and how did you capitalize on these achievements to establish Portaboom?
Simply, as soon as we had those approvals, that was the biggest gold tick of endorsement. Right. Okay, and again, I can't stipulate enough, especially in our industry, which is so risk averse. As soon as we had that gold tick, then we had a marketing campaign through education, and we had to just saturate it and go hard and go fast, and that's what we did. So we have, like everything, we have our LinkedIn, social media pages that we hit. We had direct marketing links through MailChimp. Focused emails, if you like, calls to action, but it was all around approvals, endorsements, and case studies. So we had, to me, the most important thing is case studies, because that's real social proof. True. And we all know the lag curve, right? It's product take up in the market. Right. So we're always going to hit those innovators first.
Yeah.
There's always companies out there that love to do something first.
Yeah.
And I thought, they're the ones we need to hit first.
Yes.
So that's what we're trying to do in targeted messages to those types of companies. The ones that say, we've done it, we're the evolutionary company that's put Portabim on our project site first, and this is what's done for us. And then we did the case studies on that and then marketed that. Right. So but that was over months as well. And then followers start coming on. And then obviously when it became good social proof, and then now everyone understood the cost and the return on investment, and goes, wow, we need to get onto this. We did. That's how it started taking off. But the saturation and the marketing messaging did not stop. And it was always, again, educate. It was all features and benefits. Yeah. It was all features and benefits. We very rarely ever talked about the dollar until it got to the stage where they sat down at a table one-on-one, and they said, oh, well, what does it actually mean dollar-wise? And let's turn to the language of money, and then we'll have that discussion. But other than that, it was never marketed about money. It was all about features and benefits. Because we're changing behaviour. Right? True. So that was one. Oh, sorry. And the second very important one as well, understanding, again, we're targeting the innovators. I was aware to the fact that, again, companies were not going to invest in a product where they're still not sure about because they haven't tested it. It's new. Right? It's a big disruptor. Right. Okay. So I believed, let's not target direct sales. Let's go through via hire companies. So we signed up an immediate agreement with Kennard's Hire, and they were the first ones who said, we want to be part of it. Can you partner with us? And I said, great. So we partnered with them, and they took a whole bunch of them into the hire market, and then we helped them market it to their clients. And then it was a hire. It's like a try before you buy. Right. And so when companies were hiring them, we got them out into the market, and they understood how it worked, and then all of a sudden sales started to creep in. Then we had Coates take on a big partnership as well. We got more out into the market, and then after that first 2 years, direct sales to the market were really starting to ramp up because companies were now hiring them. They said, we don't want to hire these anymore. We want to buy them. Right? Yeah. So that was a big strategy as well. How to get first the approval, endorsed, get the social proof, hit through the hire companies, and then you can target direct sales. Brilliant. So that was the journey.
Amazing. Now it's evident from our conversation so far that Portabim has achieved a remarkable success so far. So can you tell us, looking ahead, what milestones are you aiming to achieve in the next, let's say, 6 to 12 months?
So without giving too much away, we're working on a new model again, new and improved model. So we're always looking to upgrade and improve model, which will be good. We're really excited about that. We're hopefully seeing something out in the next 3 months. That's number one. Number two is we are going to continue with that, we're going to continue our progression towards the Internet of Things and connected, we call it connected products. Okay. So there's a lot of the Portabim can do in the smart space. So we can connect it to other devices on site. So if there's any speed issues, vehicle breaches or struck, it'll send an alarm messaging to everyone else around on site, so everyone's aware of what's happened. Right. Those sorts of things. So we are really starting to get some momentum in the connection. We call it connected products. Right? Smart work sites, which is connected products. And through that, we will also looking at our partnerships, our distribution partnerships. We're going to be renewing all those for the next 12 months, which is a very, very important part of our business. Absolutely. We're not the distributors because we're the solution providers and we're the service providers, and that's why we've partnered. And right now we're partnered with JBro because they have a big footprint across Australia and New Zealand, so they're our distributors. So they're in every city around the country and in New Zealand. They've got the products everywhere, so they can sell them direct. We ensure that they've got enough on hand, enough stock, and we help them with the service and support. Amazing. One thing I should mention, which I did, this is another big milestone, by the way, is we are in New Zealand as well. It's approved in New Zealand.
Oh, amazing.
And when you talk about the approval process, that took, I think, 14 to 18 months. Wow. Only because of one reason. We actually changed legislation in New Zealand. So that's a big legacy thing for us as well, because believe it or not, there's legislation in the temporary traffic control requirement for New Zealand where temporary traffic control must be stop slow, handheld stop slow. So there was no way to get around that unless they passed a bill or legislated it through Parliament. So it took 18 months until the minister finally signed it, and then it got passed. And then I got a phone call from New South Wales Transport Authority and said, "Done, you're all good to go."
Wow.
So that was a really exciting time, but it took so long though. But we got there in the end.
Amazing, Rob. Well, congratulations on everything that you have achieved to date. Now, as a parting question, before we let you go, as a mentor in the CRIISP Growth Labs program that we have, what advice would you give to startups that are aiming to disrupt traditional markets and instigate behavior change within their industries?
That's always a good question, and we certainly learnt a couple of things. And I know looking back and what would we do a bit differently moving forward. So the first one is you need to go hard, you need to go fast. I think we could have gone a bit faster, given it was our first go at this type of approval process. Right. I was really focused on getting it so correct, not the product. It was more about the approval and the compliance side, and it takes so long. I thought there was probably things we could have done, to go to the market faster, because it's basically, when you do this, when you have ideas and you innovate and you bring products, it's churning through money. There's no revenue, and you just see the money going out, and you're always thinking, "Oh, it'll come back at some point. It'll come back." So yes, but when a year goes past and 2 years goes past, you can start to hurt. Right? So my advice is, once you've got it, go hard and go fast. Get the messaging right. Don't compromise on your product. Don't compromise on your standard. Know your buyer, but go hard and go fast. Two is, one thing I believe we did get right is education. Do not get caught in the trap thinking, "Oh, let's go and sell and sell and sell." No sell, no sell, no sell. Educate, educate, educate. That'll ultimately turn into revenue. Right. Because you're there to solve a problem. You bring the product to solve a problem and give the features and benefits and focus on that all the time, nothing else. And then the rest, the outcome will be the sale. Right. Does that make sense? Yeah. And three, partnerships. You can't do it on your own. I mean, I'm sure you know that. I'm sure everyone who's done this can verify that. You can't do it on your own, and you just have to have trusted partners. And I say common ground. As long as you have common ground, you understand the objectives, communicate it clearly, and you'll succeed. And sorry, I'll put a fourth one in there. Don't compromise on the philosophy, because when things get tough, it's easy to lose a bit of energy and say, "You know what? Okay, well, don't worry about that. Then just let's do it to get it done." So, for example, on the design, I was the big one. I was the main culprit. Well, I would say no tools, no tools, no tools. And things took a bit longer because I had to come up with ideas and how do we get this to fit and be easy. I said, find a way. We're not going with tools, because I knew that could be a problem. That just do not compromise on philosophy.
Amazing. Well, Rob, thank you so much for coming in for this interview and sharing your wonderful story behind the work that you and your team are doing. It was truly inspiring for everyone to hear, I'm sure. And to our audience, thank you for joining us for this interview. We hope that you found some valuable takeaways to apply in your entrepreneurial pursuits. Stay tuned for more engaging conversations in the CRIISP Growth Lab series, and I will see you all in our next interview. Thank you.
Thank you.